Hello and welcome to Playing the Game. I'm Mick McGuane, joined by Wayne Cary, and together we'll be having a real close look at all the AFL action of round 24. On today's program, we've got a couple of special guests. Lukey Power, retired Brisbane Lion great, will join us on the phone from up there in Brisbane, and also AFC promoter Adam Milankovic is going to join us to talk about the big fight tomorrow night at MSAC between Hector Lombard and also Jesse Taylor. So welcome, Wayne Cary.
Yeah, how are you, mate? Can't wait. I can't wait for tomorrow night. I know we've got some footy coming up, but a lot of them are dead rubbers. Looking forward to tonight's game. Obviously a massive game. Collingwood v Geelong, 1v2, doesn't make any difference. And then, so I've got the footy tonight, and then I've got the fight on Saturday night. So my whole weekend's booked up, and then Father's Day on Sunday. So I am all booked up for the weekend and looking forward to it.
You love this AFC fighting, don't you?
Oh, mate, it's
the Australian Fighting Championship.
It is. Well, it's taken over boxing, and I've always been a boxing fan. Loved Ali, grew up with Muhammad Ali fighting, loved boxing, but this has taken over boxing. It really has.
What do you like about it mostly?
I think, like Bruce...
It's a combination of what?
Well, look, Bruce Lee was regarded as the best martial artist of his time because he didn't just believe in one art. He actually took different arts and made it his own, and and that's why he's regarded as the best. These guys can wrestle, they can box, they do karate, they do jiu-jitsu, they do everything. They're the toughest blokes in the world.
So is it in a cage situation tomorrow night?
No. Well, Melbourne's not allowed to have the cage, so that won't be in a cage. So it'll be in a ring. I'm not sure. Look, it's got to be passed at some stage because, and everyone that knows the sport knows that there's never been an injury inside the cage. With the ring, they can actually get thrown out because there's wrestling and there's throws and all sorts of stuff involved. You can get thrown out of the ring, which can cause injuries. So the sooner that comes into Melbourne, and Melbourne being the sports capital of Australia and probably the world for that matter, you've got it. It's got to eventually get here. So the Minister of Sport, I know he said on the news last night that it won't happen in the foreseeable future, but I think it'll only be a matter of time. It is the fastest growing sport in the world.
Yeah, it's a sold out show Saturday night. We can ask Adam.
It's not better. It's not better than AFL though, but it's very close.
Yeah, well, we can touch on those particular topics with Adam when he joins us a little bit later on the show. But let's get into our round 24 action, Duck. Collingwood versus Geelong. Obviously, Collingwood have got three very important players back into their team. Luke Ball, Sharrod Wellingham and Chris Tarrant come back into the team. Thomas is out suspended. Davis, at this time of the year, has done a hamstring. That's a concern if it's a bad one. And the young fella is out of the team. What do you think will happen?
Well, look, I think there's been a bit of talk about, we know Hawthorn, we'll get onto that later, have dropped a lot of players. But I think they'll be going into this. Geelong certainly won't want to lose two in a row. I think the fact that Geelong lost last week, they will be wanting to go into the finals with some really good form. They will want to beat Collingwood. There's no question about that tonight. They will want to beat Collingwood tonight and go up against Hawthorn in really good form and really confident. If they go out in there thinking, oh, well, it doesn't really matter and they get smashed by the Pies tonight, then look out next week. Look out next week against the Hawks. So for me, this is a full dress rehearsal. The players won't be going light at all. And I think the Pies will be doing exactly the same. And when you're a good side, and when you're a very good side, a champion side, a premiership side like Collingwood are, you don't go into games and think, I'm just going to take this lightly. They will want the juggernaut to keep rolling on. Hence, tonight I think will be a ripper.
Well, if you go back to the round 8 clash, Duck, when there was nothing separating the two teams, arguably a poor decision by the umpire, which disallowed Scott Pendlebury to kick that goal to put Collingwood in front.
Yep.
It was in the first quarter where Geelong made a statement. They had 22 inside 50s. They dominated clearances. Their structural changes that they'd made over summer with their new coach was certainly in place that particular night. They kept Collingwood to 9 goals, 8 in round 8. So it just proved to me that they were very good defensively, which they had to add to their game because they got smashed the previous year against Collingwood in the home and away and also the finals. But I think the interesting question for me, we've had a fantastic discussion and debate over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Should Cameron Mooney be in the team going into a finals campaign? He's not in this team on the weekend or tonight. What's your view on that?
Well, yeah, look, I would have Cam Mooney in the side. Look, there's another game. This is the last home and away game. Will he get an opportunity? Well, I think he will. I think, he's
surely then if he was in the scheme of things, he'd be playing tonight, wouldn't he?
Well, not necessarily for Cam Mooney because as we've seen during the year, he's played a lot of games in the VFL because, he's trying to get his body right. The fact that he's missed with suspension, they may think he needs another game in the VFL before he comes in next week, or even the week after for that matter. Look, Cam knows that he's not a permanent fixture there, but right. I think he's got a part to play before the year's out. There's no doubt about that.
Is Geelong big odds at $3.25, courtesy of Luxbet?
I think that's not bad odds. 2-horse race. They beat them last time. They're going to be hungry. There's no question Geelong are going to be hungry tonight.
They're one team that's beat Hawthorn. They're one team that's beat Collingwood.
Exactly, and they're one team that got beaten by Sydney last week and were disappointing. So for that, I mean, look, there's a lot of build-up ammunition for them to go out tonight and have a ripper.
Pardon the pun, but it's just about probably the loss they had to have to rattle the cage, Duck.
Yep. It's going to be a good one.
Let's get on to the next game. You talk about leaving players out. Hawthorn versus Gold Coast. Hawthorn have made the decision at the selection table to leave out 8 of their big players. Let's go through these names. Burgoyne, Hodge, Sewell, Birchall, Franklin, Lewis, the emerging ruckman in Bailey, and Cyril Rioli all rested. Now, philosophically speaking, Duck, is this the right thing to do in the view that they've got a game the following week against Geelong? If they happen to win that, they play possibly one game in 4 weeks. Is that an ideal preparation going into a preliminary final?
I think what would have happened, and when you're not at the club, I mean, it's an opinion sport. Everyone's talking about it, and we dissect it. I think Alistair Clarkson would have gone to those players and found out how they're feeling, and he would have asked whether they needed a rest. And basically how their bodies are. Now, obviously, for them not to be playing, it is against the Gold Coast. It is up there. I'm not sure. The weather will probably be quite a warm night.
25 degrees.
25 degrees. I mean, look.
And it's in the day.
I think, and look, if any one of those players felt that they needed the run, or they wanted the run, I think they'd be playing. I think they'd say to Alistair Clarkson, "No, I really need this." Interesting one. I know if Buddy Franklin, they're just little things and they're individual things. The team's bigger than obviously any individual, but Lance Franklin's obviously leading the Coleman medal. It'll take a couple of big bags to beat him, but who's second? I think it's Rewalt.
Rewalt's 10 in arrears.
Rewalt's 10 in arrears. 10. So if he kicks 10, against North, Buddy loses the Coleman medal. Now, I don't know. I know it's not about individual, but you'd be a little bit disappointed if he did kick 10 or 11 and took the award off him.
I suppose it just comes back to me, Duck, in that your ladder position at this time of year dictates what you can do with your personnel.
Yeah.
If Hawthorn were 8th and they had to win this week to stay in, they'd be all playing. If they were 9th, they had to win to get in, they'd be all playing. Of course, in the view that they have to play finals.
Oh, that's right. And the thing that I said about this week, the fact that the ladder positions doesn't matter for all of those top sides, that the only time they'll rest play if those players really do need a rest. They're not just resting them for the sake of it. Obviously, those players need it.
Well, there's no doubt monitoring players is such a critical component of AFL footy nowadays. You know, you have basically Collingwood, for instance, with David Butterfield. They have a performance management diary to see the fluctuating emotional states of players, physical states that they're involved in. Are they going through the right procedures to keep their spirit levels high going into any game of footy? No doubt that'd be the same at Hawthorn. They've probably looked at all their playing personnel and said, let's sign off on leaving a few of these guys out in the view of where we're going.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's a common sense approach.
Yeah, it is. And, they'll be, I believe, all the betting agencies, Luxbet and the rest of, I think there's been a pause button pushed on that particular game. They did open up, I think, at $16 to Gold Coast. I'm sure that'll come in.
It certainly has come in. There's no doubt the line would have been altered. I think it was out to about 84 points or something in some corporates, but that's clearly been altered. Just in relation to the integrity question, on the back of the Herald Sun today, as we lift the Herald Sun up, it stipulates on the back of the Herald Sun, integrity test as Hawthorn rests 8. I pose the question to you, Duck. If we read a quote, the Hawks said they had not compromised the integrity of the game. Do you think they have?
No.
I totally agree. I just can't understand why the back page of the Herald Sun would go with a story of that nature.
Whenever you look at a story in any paper, you look at who wrote it, and then you go through all the other stories of all the other papers and look who wrote them. There are that many journalists covering AFL footy, and we put ourselves in that category, they have to write about something, and so to throw that up, I think is ridiculous. But that there's 3 guys took to write that, so. It's an interesting view. I don't subscribe to it.
Well, Fremantle did it in round 21 last year to their effect.
Yep.
They didn't go down to Launceston. They played Hawthorn. They left a good chunk of their good players out in that particular game in the view of where they were going to play a final.
And actually performed all right too.
They won. They smashed Hawthorn over there. Yep. So proof's in the pudding. Let's get on to the next game, Duck. Obviously, Bulldogs versus Fremantle. Fremantle are decimated with injury. They've limped through the second half of the year. They've been competitive for stages that we've touched on over the last couple of weeks, but by the end of the game, they're really run short. On the other hand, the Western Bulldogs, Paul Williams as caretaker coach, were disappointing last week. They've included Hudson in his farewell game in terms of his retirement, what a career he's had. Young Woods back in the team, and Stevie Wallace's young boy, Mitch Wallace, is back in that team as well. Who do you think will win this one?
Oh, look, because of probably injury, the fact that it's here in Melbourne, I think you'd have to go with the Bulldogs. Hudson, farewell game. I think he's a well-liked guy, good fella, and I think the Bulldogs will win this one. Last game, they'll want to go out on a good note. The only reason why I'm saying that, I think Fremantle have been really decimated by injury. They're without their captain, and I think that the Bullies will get over the line.
You have a look at the outs for Fremantle, just to add to that conversation you just had, Duck. Ibbetson's out with a shoulder. Folks has done a jaw. We know Lauer got suspended last week. Fife, a very, very important player to Fremantle, he's out as well with a shoulder. And Reece Palmer, who's got a groin, doesn't probably get a chance to play his last game because I've got no doubt he'll be at GWS next year, and he won't be a part of Fremantle's last game in 2011. But I'm tipping the Western Bulldogs. I think they'll have a very good win, and it'll be an opportunity for a lot of their young kids to compete against another young group in Fremantle on the weekend. Sydney, on the other hand, they were terrific last week. They were magnificent down there at Skilled Stadium against Geelong. They won the game. They were emotionally charged. All things went for a fantastic victory. They take on Brisbane Lions, and we can give an answer about Michael Voss. He has signed on.
Re-signed.
He's extended his contract, so that's great to see from Brisbane's perspective. A little bit of solidarity and stability in their football environment. But I think Sydney at the SCG, a must-win game to get a home final. They should do their club proud.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Michael Voss, good decision. I think the Lions have had a pretty good year this year. I really do. I think they've been, in most games that they've played, they've been competitive. They've been run over the top of late in games. I think it's a good appointment, and they have certainly gone forward from where they were at this, a few weeks in when we sort of thought that they were really starting to unravel. But for me, Sydney will win. You're right. They are back to some really good form after last week, and obviously the week before beating St Kilda. So they've beaten 2 quality sides in 2 weeks.
Yep.
They won't want to let this one slip.
No, it's an important game for Sydney's perspective.
Well, another dead rubber, and I think I said to the boys on Monday that when you know that it's the last game of the year and it's a Sunday twilight game, it buggers your whole weekend up, and that's exactly what's going to happen to these 2 clubs. I think the Kangaroos have got some important outs.
Yes, they have.
And I think that because of that, I think Richmond will beat them and beat them again. Sorry, Kangaroos. I'm only tipping on who I think will win. I'm not sure of the odds in that one. Have we got the odds in that one? I think the
Richmond are $2.40.
Well, the Kangaroos are $1.59 according to that. So I think the Tigers are good value. I think the Kangaroos outs. Some very good players. A couple of good players come back in, mind you,
yes,
for the Kangas.
Hamish McIntosh plays.
Hamish McIntosh plays and his 100th for the club, so congratulations to him. But for me, I think the Tigers, they've had 3 wins on the trot now. I think they'll make it 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way, Duck. I'm going to tip North Melbourne to finish off the year. Just missing 8, their ladder position vindicates they've been a little bit unlucky.
Well, if the Tigers win, I think they finish 9th. Again.
Yeah, and they have a habit over the last 4 years of stringing multiple wins together
at the end
when the season means nothing.
Mean nothing.
Tells you something about the footy club at the moment. But obviously Damien Hardwick is trying to change that winning culture at that particular football club. It's time for a break, Duck, and joining us after the break is AFC promoter Adam Milankovic. He'll join us after the break. Welcome back to Playing the Game, and joining us now is AFC promoter Adam Milankovic. He's going to talk about the big fight tomorrow night between Hector Lombard and Jesse Taylor. As I welcome Adam, thanks for coming into the show.
Thanks for having me on, Mick and Wayne.
Tell us about the big fight tomorrow night. Obviously, it's a sold-out situation at MSAC tomorrow night.
Yep.
Massive crowd. Tell us about how many fights are on the undercard.
Mate, we've got 10 fights tomorrow night, so we've got. Well, everyone knows the main fight, Hector Lombard, Jesse Taylor. It's talked about pretty much all over the world at the moment, and they've pretty much said the biggest fight just outside of the UFC. So basically, the winner out of these fights pretty much got a ticket to the UFC. So it will be a big fight. But then the undercard underneath that, we've got a lot of talent from all over the world. We've got another young gentleman, Marcin Held, who's the Bellator prodigy child, they call him. He's a 19-year-old youngest black belt in jiu-jitsu in Poland, but yeah, mate, we've got it's pretty much we've got the fight cards, probably one of the best fight cards Melbourne and Australia's ever seen, and the crowd, as I said, is packed out. We've packed it out 2,200 people. Probably should have gone a bigger venue, but as I said, Melbourne's been screaming for this sport, and as Wayne was saying before, it's growing, and the fastest growing sport in the world, and it's just getting bigger.
Now, to put a card of this nature together, how long does it actually take to actually sign off on every fighter? They're happy with their terms and conditions, but to get to this stage, how long does it take?
Oh, mate, it's a nightmare. I tell you, it's been an absolute nightmare. But
so when did you start out in it, just as promoter?
Oh, look, this fight card's probably taken us about 3 months to put together.
Incredible.
And it's just been, and the amount of guys that just. We'll get a commitment out of a fighter, but then he'll break his hand the next week in training, or something like that happens. So you're constantly replacing fighters and keeping it and just maintaining the card. But it's actually been this one's been a hard one, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the main fight, Hector and Jesse. What are their strengths? And well, neither of them have probably got any weaknesses, but what are their strengths? What do they bring to the table? Oh,
look, Hector, I don't know. Hector's probably. He's probably a little bit unrecognised around the world for his basically for his skills and his talent, and basically as an MMA fighter. But he's probably one of the most feared MMA fighters around the world at the moment, just outside of the UFC. But his strengths, he's a black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu. Then obviously he boxes, kickboxes. I mean, these guys are mixed martial artists, and they're actually supreme athletes. And to see these guys train is just it's quite outstanding. But Jesse Taylor's probably he's probably ranked as probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. I don't know. He was on the Ultimate Fighter series in the States, and he pretty much won the series.
He was on the series and he got thrown off the series.
Yeah, he got thrown off the series. He actually he was a little bit immature at the stage. He ended up, I think he kicked in Dana White's limo window and spear tackled a poker machine at the casino, a little bit drunk. So he was kicked off the series towards the end, but pretty much won it right up to the end. So he had another chance to go back to the UFC. He was still a little bit immature, but he's matured now over the last couple of years, and he's actually turned into a really good fighter. But his strengths, he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. So, but then he stand up. He trains with Dan Henderson out of Team Quest in America, and Dan Henderson just beat Fedor in Strikeforce, which was a big fight. And so Jesse's prepared and he's ready for this fight, and he's not scared of Hector.
So you've got Hector, who we know is just a fantastic all-round game. Would Jesse be fair to say Jesse will try to take it to the ground?
Look, Jesse will probably try to take it to the ground, but then Hector's wrestling is outstanding also. And as I said, Hector's a black belt in judo, but then more for Jesse's probably a little bit not. He's with Jesse. He probably takes everyone to the ground straight away for the fact that he's such a strong wrestler, and his stand up. No one's really seen him stand up, and he trains with Dan Henderson at Team Quest, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Jesse Taylor.
Just in relation to the length of the fight, Adam, what is it?
It's a 5-rounder.
How many minutes?
3 minutes.
Yep.
So it's going to be. It's actually a long fight. This. It's
a. So they're 3 minute rounds.
Yeah.
Now is that normal? Because normally are they 5 minute rounds normally?
Oh, sorry. They're 5 minute rounds. These
yeah.
Sorry.
So it's five.
It's a 25-minute fight.
Yeah. So five minute rounds. So as people or those who don't know, boxing is 3 minute rounds.
Yes.
In the AFC, MMA, UFC, they're 5 minute rounds. So. I mean, you know yourself, Mick, anyone that's ever trained, boxing trained, even hit the pads, hit the bag, anything, 3 minutes boy oh boy, you need to be very fit. These boys go for 5, and going to the ground, for anyone that thinks they're fit, when you stand up, you box, they're all different fitnesses. All of them, wrestling fitness, boxing fitness, you know, your jiu-jitsu, all of that, they're all different. So these guys do it all. So they are supremely fit athletes. I'm excited about it.
Oh, he sounds like it in your voice. But I just want to touch on what we spoke about at the top of the show, Duck, about the Australian rules, why we don't have a cage. Can you answer that, Adam?
I think it's. I've got my reason and my points on it, but. I do think it's it's taken these guys out of an unsafe working environment, especially the guys from overseas who are, and look, it's just come. It's the fact these guys are supreme athletes, and look, their sport's growing so much in Australia at the moment, and it's actually leading that way in Australia also. But I think it's just taken these guys out of an unsafe working environment, putting into something that's unsafe. And look, as Wayne said before, these guys, you know, they're judo, jiu-jitsu, and there's a lot of flips and throwing involved, and you know, just for the crowd safety as well as these guys' health, these guys' safety, I think it's a
you wouldn't want Jesse being thrown out of the ring on top of people in the crowd.
No, so just on that point then,
yep.
Will the Australian ruling committee actually introduce it in the not too distant future?
Look, it's introduced in most states around Australia, basically bar Melbourne, and it's just Melbourne's.
So why isn't it uniformed?
There's not a basically governing body like for MMA for the whole of Australia. The one like Melbourne's run by the Combat Board,
right.
And basically that's where we're governed under that in Melbourne. But then in most of the other states, they actually don't even have a governing board. So.
Okay, so at some stage that's got to change. Melbourne being the sports capital, as I said at the start of the show, I mean, it's inevitable that it'll happen. Just quickly, the two fighters, what will their preparation be from now until tomorrow night? What is the weight division? What do they have to?
84 kilos.
84 kilos. Now, for those once again who don't know, that the guys obviously train very hard. They will be trying to. They have the weigh-in today, and they will be trying to get down to a weight. What's the process for them from now until tomorrow night?
Basically, look, these guys, especially Hector and Jesse, they've done it so many times, and they're experts to the way they cut weight. I think Hector was 3 kilos away, and Jesse wasn't too far also, and they've been basically cutting weight in the last week or on the lead up till today. But I dare say they'll probably sit in the sauna. Maybe Hector could probably go for a run knowing him.
So Adam, say for example, if neither fighter reaches the weight that they have to get to,
yep.
In terms of their contract, is there any ramifications?
Look, generally, it's probably just they'll probably pass on a little bit of their money out of their fight purse onto the other fighter, but it just pretty much comes down to what happens on the time, what they agree upon.
So if one fighter, say 2 or 3 kilos heavier, is that an advantage or is it a disadvantage?
Look, it doesn't really. What will happen is even though these guys will weigh in, even if they'll weigh in a correct weight, but then they can walk out of the weigh-ins and have a good feed, and they'll put the weight back on again. So it's just.
So they actually go into the fight heavier than the actual weight that they have to be under.
So to strip them, if they were 2 or 3 kilos at the weigh-in today over, just going into it, would they go for a heavy run, and would that have an adverse effect in terms of their fighting ability?
If they do come in heavier, they can actually take out an hour or 2 hours and then come back and weigh in again.
Okay.
So that's an option also. And look, it's very seldom these days that the fighters actually come back heavier, and if they do, it's only like half a kilo over. Or
no, they'll both come under the weight, and it will be an absolute ripper. Cannot wait.
Adam, I know it's time for a break, but before we let you go, you are the AFC promoter. You've done a lot of hard yards to get this fight up and going, and the undercard, as you touched on. Can't let you go without giving a tip. Who'll win this fight?
Can't really say, but look, I think on paper.
Come on, he's bought both fighters.
I did. I'll probably get beaten up if I say that.
You know what? We'll leave it.
Who do you reckon will win, Duck?
Well, I haven't. I've met Hector, and I think he's a lovely guy. And the fact that I've met him, I haven't met Jesse yet. So sorry, Jesse, don't take that out on me. So I'm going for Hector.
Oh, well, you'll be there in the crowd, and Jesse will have a look at you, and he might come and see you before the fight. But Adam, thanks very much for giving up your time, giving us a real good insight into the world of AFC. All the work that you put in obviously comes to fruition tomorrow night, and all the best with it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Playing the Game. It's a time for a break. Let's hear from our sponsors. Welcome back to Playing the Game, and joining us now is a three-time premiership player from Brisbane Lions who retired last week, and he's been a star for the football club ever since he's left Melbourne, and his name is Luke Power, and he joins us now from up there in Brisbane. How are you, Lukey?
Good, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, terrific, mate. This was a very, very big shock to me. I thought you were playing your role perfectly for the Brisbane Lions. I listened to you after the interview 2 weeks after the game you played down here in Melbourne. You thought you were going to play on, and all of a sudden it was a shock to everyone that you announced your retirement. What transpired between 1 week and the next?
Look, I had a couple of conversations to Vossi during the week, and you know, he was pretty open and honest with me. You know, he's a good friend of mine, and also my coach, and you know, he was open with what he said about the direction where the club was going, and I guess you know, my priorities and the club's were just a little bit different. So I guess I decided that the best thing to do would be to you know, to move on quickly and allow the club to move on too.
Lukey, Wayne Cary, congratulations on what has been an unbelievable career. Why? Okay, so you had to talk to Vossi, but why not play the last round? Why not play this week? Why did it have to be straight after the game?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Yeah, I just sort of went home and just in the middle of the night I woke up and I just said to my wife, I think that tonight will be my last game. I think I wanted to play my last game in Brisbane was one reason, and the other reason was, you know, once I knew that in my mind that I wasn't going to be with the club next year, I wanted to move on and allow the club to move on and play a player that's going to be part of their hopefully their next successful era.
Lukey, you attended Trinity Grammar down here in Melbourne. Obviously, you got to the Brisbane Lions at an early age. Your biggest influence on your career?
Oh, look, I'd have to say my family. You know, my father Kevin and my mum Michelle. You know, they're the ones that probably did the hard yards with me and drove me to all the training sessions when I was younger. And there were some big drives to be made. I think parents are so good in what they do for their kids and often don't get the acknowledgement for it. But you know, up here at Brisbane, I've been lucky to have been coached by Lee Matthews, as you have, and I still find myself using a lot of his sayings and philosophies, and no doubt his influences on me have been massive. And also Craig Lambert, who's been a great mentor, and he spent a lot of hours with players like myself and Simon Black, you know, doing one-on-ones and doing touch work, which is such an important part of the game now.
Lukey, you've obviously played in premierships. That'd be the highlight because we play football for team success. You certainly had that. But you played with some great individuals. Who really stands out? I mean, you're a part of the Fab Five, as we know. Jonathan Brown, Alistair Lynch. I mean, the list goes on and on. Who out of those guys? Simon Black has just been unbelievable, still unbelievable. Probably win your best and fairest again this year. But who are the ones that really stand out to you?
Look, you know, obviously the current coach Vossi was such an inspirational leader and such an explosive player. You know, Simon Black, he's just a quality player and a quality person, and I guess you know, he's won absolutely everything, and yeah, it hasn't affected him at all. He's a super player. You know, Nigel Lappin, underrated player who probably was the most complete player I've played with. Then you got Ackermanis, who was explosive. Lepich and Michael, who were just great, you know, great defenders. And as you said, Lynch, Brown, and Bradshaw, who were brilliant key forwards. So you know, that's why it was such a great side, as well as having a great coach. We just had so many players that we could turn to, and I guess when one player wasn't playing well, someone else would pick up the slack. And you know, we also had a great lot of role players. You know, your Sean Harts, your Ashcroft, your Scott brothers, who probably didn't get the recognition that they deserved, but they were so important for the make out of our side.
Luke, you touched on it earlier that you had different priorities with your discussions with Vossi and the Brisbane Lions. Has that kept that window of opportunity of staying as an AFL player? Because the word we have it down here is that there's a potential chance that you may go to GWS in either a player capacity or even in a coaching capacity. Can we see you in another Guernsey?
Look, I love the industry. I'm pretty keen to stay in the industry. I think it's a great industry, and sport is such a great thing. I had a meeting with GWS, over a few things, and I guess the important thing for me now is just to sit down with with my wife and decide what's best going forward. So the next couple of weeks, I'll take my time and I'll make a decision. My body's still good, so I could possibly play, but I've got to really make the decision whether I want to, because you've got to go into these things 100% sure.
Obviously we can't speak for you, but it just appears to me to be a perfect fit for a player of your ilk. You've had experience at leadership roles at the Brisbane Lions as co-captain. They're reaching out for some experience and also a good leader of their club in their infancy. To me, Duck, I think it appeals to probably everyone in the football world. They'd love to see Luke Power continue on in that particular venture. I hope you do go on as a player, Luke, because you're a long time retired.
Yeah, you certainly are, and it's an exciting opportunity. It's exciting to go and create a culture and I guess help develop kids that are there's some super talented kids from all reports that are there and that are going to be going there. So if I was to play on, it would have to be an opportunity that would involve other things like developing young players and learning a little bit about the industry while I'm at it.
What about coaching aspirations, Luke?
Oh, look, that's something that I've looked at, and that's probably something that I'll do to get into the industry and get into the game. And from there, I'm not sure whether I'll be a career coach, but I'm keen to do other parts like recruiting and list development. So it's a great way to get in and learn about the industry and do some hard yards.
And Lukey, obviously the other big topic at the moment is the players and the AFL and the deal. And we read in the paper now that there's a bit of a hitch that involves the TV rights, Big Pond, the players' images, all of that sort of stuff. Andrew Demetrio's put a deadline on it. Can you see a deal being done before that deadline?
Look, we're going to take our time. I probably can't see the deal getting done before the deadline. There's a lot of information. What the AFL have put to us is quite detailed and definitely requires some serious examination. But it's a positive shift from them. But we've got to sit down. We've probably only received the information 48 hours ago. So we've got to sit down and really look hard at it. And we've got really good people who are doing that. And then we've got to make a decision, based on what we believe it is.
If you want an ex-player's opinion, and I know Mick, you agree, mate, stick fat. You deserve everything you get. I wouldn't be giving up. Your rights and seriously, I mean the players. I would be sticking as strong as ever. They deserve everything. I think they deserve everything they've asked for and more. And it's not about being greedy. It's about what you deserve. And they say you don't get what you deserve in this life. You get what you negotiate. And I think you've got to stick really strong, stick together, and I think everything will turn out all right.
Lukey, can I just ask how the AFL went in and tried to sell to the playing group that they want you to surrender their digital media rights? What tact did Andrew Demetrio use in relation to that? Because I reckon he will probably put himself into a corner.
Yeah, look, in a negotiation, both sides have got to make compromises, and both sides have got to show what they can give the other. And Andrew's obviously thought that these are something that they could get at, the AFL could get out of the deal, and we got to have a look at it and go away and analyse it. But I can tell you that the players, as Wayne said, are very unified on it, and I think it's not only for us, but I think it's the legacy that we can hopefully leave for the next generation and generations down the track of AFL footballers.
That's exactly right. That's why it's so important. That's why this deal's so important,
yeah.
Because it really, I mean, look, I don't know whether the statistics have changed too much. I think it's up to about 9%, or might even be 10% now, play 200 games. Not everyone's a Luke Power. Not everyone can play upwards of 300 games. Very small percentage that have a long career at this game. They have to be looked after, and like I said, mate, don't sell out. Stick together, and it'll all work out.
Lukey, obviously Andrew Demetrio's given that deadline September 15. You touched on it. You're in no hurry. Have you got a time frame to work from?
Look, no, as I said before, we've we've just received the offer 48 hours ago, so we've really got to sit down and digest it and dissect it and have a look at it. We've got to go back to our 750 members. We've got to engage them and get their feedback, and that's going to take some time. So we're not really in any hurry.
Okay, Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you on the retirement news and also touching on the new hits that the AFL players are facing at the moment from the AFL. But personally, I wish you all the best in your next venture. I hope it is at GWS, either as a player or as a coach, because that's where I think the pathway is going to take you. But thanks for giving up your time today to join us on Playing the Game.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.
Thanks. Well, that's, you know what, I don't know what it is about you and I, Mick, but we seem to get a little bit out of our guests that we have on this show. And what I took of that is Mr. Demetrio at the AFL will not be getting his deadline. The players will take their time. They'll make sure the decision's right. And good on them. And good on them.
Well,
and the one thing that you don't do, and you shouldn't do in either business or life, is put deadlines on things, because that's when and say that everything will close down after that. So it'll be interesting if that deadline isn't met, and by the sounds of things it's not going to be met, what Mr. Demetrio does then.
Very interesting situation, but also glean from that, I reckon we may see Luke Power in another jumper.
I think, look, he didn't exactly say it, but I think you might be right, Mick. I think that Lukey might be going to GWS in a playing capacity, obviously with other roles tied to that. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, no, very good point. Let's get on to other sports, Duck, because the US Open is underway. And obviously our very own Bernard Tomic was front and square. He got through the first round. He had a comprehensive victory. But early this morning, he is out of the US Open, clearly and comprehensively beaten by Marin Cilic. And he only won 3 games, Duck. Considering he played Cilic in the Australian Open and went to 5 sets, this is a massive kick in the guts for Bernard Tomic, because I thought he would have been far more competitive.
No, well, you're going to get inconsistencies from him. He's still a young kid, youngest player in the US Open. He's also obviously the youngest finalist since Boris Becker in the Wimbledon final, as we know. But look, like I said, I wouldn't read too much into that. He'll learn from that and only get better.
Positive from the female side of the draw, Sam Stosur. She advances to the third round.
And needed to, I thought, because she's been disappointing in some of the bigger tournaments. She was disappointing at Wimbledon. She got knocked out in the first round. So to get through to the third round, I think, is a good effort. Let's hope she can get into the finals. Yeah,
she beat Coco Vandeweghe very easily, 6-3, 6-4. She advances to the third round. She plays Nadia Petrova in what will be a very, very good contest. Just on to Melbourne Storm, and obviously the ramifications of the big blue we spoke about last Friday versus Manly. Adam Blair will never play again for Melbourne Storm. That to me is a very sad end away to finish a career at Melbourne Storm.
Look, it is really sad, and when you look at what other players received, I think he's been hardly done by. He really has, and there is a conspiracy theory amongst people here in Melbourne, and not only people in Melbourne, but in the rugby world, that think that this is just another slap in the face to Melbourne. We know Cameron Smith missed the grand final a couple of years ago. People thought he was stiff, and now this has occurred. I think they don't want Melbourne. They don't want Melbourne to get into a grand final and win another one.
I'll tell you one thing. I've got news for them up there. They'll get to another grand final.
Yeah,
you've got an unbelievable group. They're a proud group. They're the best coached unit.
Aren't they good? I mean, just hats off to Melbourne Storm after everything they've been through, and then now to be in the position they're in. Good luck to them, and after this slap in the face, let's hope they get up and win the flag.
Let's talk about cricket, Duck, for a moment. Test number 1 is underway versus Sri Lanka.
Couple of new boys.
Yeah, big debut here. Fantastic to see Nathan Lyon get a 5-wicket haul on debut. He was a curator at the Adelaide Oval, Duck. He was born in Young.
He looks like a curator.
Travelled down to Canberra. He got to Adelaide. It's a fantastic story for a young person to get 5 wickets on debut. I just hope that the Aussie selectors now identify the talent that he's got. He's very wristy, as we can see. He's got a good contrast between spin and flight and drift. And I think he's the person that could probably steer us out of the spinning doldrums that we've got since Shane Warner's retired. They've tried 12 players as spinners. They've gave them small stints, but they haven't persevered with one. Maybe this is the person they persevere with.
Oh, look, what a great debut. I mean, that's as good as anyone, I dare say. He doesn't quite have the charisma of a Warnie, but he look.
Not many people have.
No, what a great effort. I mean, that's a great story in itself, and the Aussie boys doing us proud.
Yes, Mike Hussey come to the fore again. Australia under pressure in that first innings. They happened to claw themselves to 273, of which Mike Hussey got 95. They bowled out Sri Lanka yesterday for 105 runs, and now as we go into the second innings, they're 6 for 115. So they've got a lead of 283, and on this turning wicket, you'd think Australia are in a very comfortable position to win this first test. Well, Duck, we've got racing, of course, underway tomorrow. That's in the view that Spring Carnival is not too far away. But I think it's also important to touch on that top 8 as we close the show. As we see the top 8, there it is. We know it can't change. Essendon's got the week off in preparation for their first final versus Carlton. Carlton and St Kilda, they'll go hell for leather on Saturday night. Sydney will be doing their best to beat the Brisbane Lions so they can finish in 6th position in the view. They hope Carlton do them a favour and get over the top of St Kilda so they get a home final.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the 8 is. It's no changes there. Really looking forward to tonight. It's going to be a cracking game. Obviously the Carlton St Kilda game, another one that I'm looking forward to. Really good weekend of sport. Got the cricket if you want to tune into the cricket. The tennis is on. The spring's here. I might even go and mow someone's lawn because I haven't got one. So I'll go and mow someone's lawn just for that grass smell that you get when it's finals footy.
I'm going to keep you up to that. You can come to my joint today. Well, Duck, that's all we've got time for. Enjoy the AFC Championships tomorrow night. Hector Lombard taking on Jesse Taylor. Get to know Jesse at the weigh-in too. Do yourself a favour. Yeah. We'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the sport. We'll see you then on Playing the Game.
No tall Tim. Ebert! Big grab by Ebert! At the back, cracker! Oh! Couple of big blokes down there, walking over the top of all of them.
Can't find the handle. Now he does. He goes to Thomas. And the danger man, Thomas, kicks the goal of the afternoon.
Oh! Magnificent fly over the top.
Delidio to half forward.
Oh! Takes a beauty!
The winner of the 2010 Brownlow medal, Chris Judd from the Carlton Football Club.